Hey guys, before we get into the video, I want to explain real quick how it's formatted. Basically, we're starting up with all of the util that I think is the best on each map. Then I will go into all of the setups that I use the most. If you guys are enjoying the video, want to support me more, subscribe to my Discord, where you'll also get access to offense tech, offense one-ways, etc.
Yes,
Thanks guys.
this should do. That goes there. Oh, this is a nice spot. Yes, this should do. This goes here. Cage trigger. Cage triggered. Cage triggered. Cage triggered. Cage triggered. Cage trigger. Cage triggered. Cage triggered. Cage triggered. Cage triggered. Cage triggered. Cage triggered.
Okay, this is the main setup around towards B, starting with a market trip, just good overall info, and then I will alternate between these two tripwires. They just find me kills the most often. And now for a one-way, crouch in this corner, aim where I do with my crosshair and throw, and then this camera here is just overall my favorite. Finally, a cage here. Playing the setup super simple, we start in CT, when our camera sees something, we can pop our one-way, go for a free kill. And then as the enemy team is coming out sight, we can play off the tripwires, and then we have our cage to flood out and help our sight player. Second setup, this time we're going to be playing sight. Throwing the same market trip, it's just too strong off the throw. Camera here in this corner, just because it's safe and spots the run out. There's other cameras you can throw though. Trip for lane run out, again, just good trip. Paired with a cage. And then we're going to have a one-way cage off stairs here. You don't need a lineup, you can just bank it and throw it. Playing this setup's even more simple than the previous one. When they run out, we can tag one, go for a wallbang kill, and then when they're hitting sight, we can just pop our cage to play off our tripwire, and pop our cage upstairs to stall. This setup also has an alternative camera that I would recommend. It really just comes down to personal preference here. Now over towards A site. This is the GOAT cam in my opinion. Doesn't get broken out early, and has good info for sight and tree. Now we're gonna jump up top Jenny, place a cage on the corner of it here, and one on the corner of it dice. And then for tripwires, there's tons you can use. These are the two I normally start out with though. One that's just really good kill trip, and one that's good for the dash updraft Jenny. And now starting in heaven to avoid the util dump, when we see players flooding out, we can pop our cages, play off our tripwires, and have tons of options for where to reposition. We can jump up top Jenny, we can drop hell, we can just stay heaven and wait for the retickers, it's all good. And now for a one-way setup on A, we're placing the same camera, but slightly more to the left so that it spots people in A main. Coming into this corner, place our middle HUD line on that line here. Bro, easy. And now for tripwires, there's again a ton you can do, but I like having the one in the choke to stop people from pushing through the one-way, and one on site like so to stop people from pushing into me. And finally, to finish the setup, we're just putting a simple cage here. Playing the setup super simple, just chill under camera. When you see people coming up, pop your one way, get a free kill.
Cage triggered.
And then, after that, you're just playing off your site trips. Easy. And finally, this isn't exactly a set setup, but something I do a ton on this map is just spreading my util across loads of different lanes on the map. This is especially effective if the other team doesn't have util that can break your own util easily, because no matter where they go, you are going to end up getting value.
Cage triggered. Cage triggered. Cage triggered. Cage triggered. Cage triggered. Here. Here. Cage triggered. Cage triggered. Cage triggered. Cage triggered.
Okay, for buying, this is my go-to setup for hold down hookah. Chip for long, just so we don't have to worry about it. And this trip and hookah, honestly, it's the best one by far. Paired with a cage right there. And now for the cam, jump onto this box, jump backwards and throw. You probably have to practice it a little bit, but it's not too hard once you get it. Come onto the corner of the box here, sit in our camera, and when the enemy players walk up, they will be looking at the wire when you see them on camera, and you can just peek out and kill them like so. And then if they're hard rushing through, you have your cage to pop, play after wire again, and this cage can let you reposition left to right, and gives you a ton of space to peek from different angles on them. If they end up forcing you out of hookah, you can jump onto the corner here, and throw a one-way like so, by crouching, throwing this corner, popping it, and that's it. For our elbow setup, this is my go-to starting one, but there's tons of different util you can use that's effective from here. cam on the corner there, trip on the corner of this box here, just the best one on the site by far, and then trip for the jump out hookah. For cages, we're going to jump up on top of the double stack, throw one on the corner here, and then we're going to put one on the left side of site like so. And now playing the setup's super easy. We're just playing off our tripwires from elbow through the enemy team's smoke. The main other thing we have to think about though is timing our cages to help our teammates. Popping this cage here makes it really easy for teammates from CT to flood out into site. And our second cage also helps them when they're on site, but it also is very possible for us to get timings by walking through the elbow smoke and getting into this cage onto site. If you want this push for yourself to be much safer though, you can always pair the cage on dice with a cage for yourself instead. That just makes it so there's no gaps when running through their elbow smoke. For lamp setup on A, just start up here, throw our camera, just good overall info cam. We're going to be placing a tripwire here to protect ourselves. And then for our second trip, there's a few different options. Just you want to try to get a kill off it, maybe mix it up depending on how they've been playing. These three are all super solid. And then for our cages, we're placing one here to play off our trips. And for a second, we're lining ourselves up with this left side of the sign, aiming at the middle of this lamp, then aiming in between it and the wall here, and throwing for a one-way. And now playing this setup's extremely simple. We're showing our camera when they start to run out. We can pop our cage to play off our tripwires. And if they force us back in U-haul, we have this cage here to punish if they push us. Now for our second setup, we're going to be placing our camera up here. The info slightly later on short, but it is a much safer cam. For tripwires, mix it up between any of these. You also have the option of throwing one way here. Really simple, just aim at those lines, but it really more depends on if they are smoking off left side triple or not. And then after, you're just placing a cage in front of you to play the trips. If your cam sees playing showers, you can pop your one way to get a kill, and then you have your cage in front of you to play for tripwires. And this cage is bowed out slightly, so you should have different timings and opportunities to peek through it.
Cage triggered. 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 Yep. Cage triggered. Cage triggered. Cage triggered.
Okay, so for Cypher Breeze, starting on B, placing the goat trip, paired with another solid kill trip here, and a cage at the choke. And because so often the time, when you're playing Cypher towards B, they simply just won't hit B because they're scared of the trips, we're placing a camera mid, and we're looking to take fights mid, just so we can continue to get impact even if they're not hitting their sights. Jumping up here, for example, is a pathing we might take. Getting in position is super strong. And if they do end up hitting our sight with this setup, super simple to play off of. We just have a cage in the choke to mask our trip, and we're going to be sitting behind their Viper wall and spamming tripwires. And alternatively, if they've been lurking up elbow a ton, you might want to throw a camera here instead of the other one, and try to backstab the guy. If they actually are hitting B site though, this is my go-to setup to try to stop them. God trip again, and then trip off pillar, one way up here, you don't need a lamp, you can just throw, and then a camera right here. And then our second cage goes on top of our second trip. Playing from backside is super simple, showing on our camera, you see go walking up, pop our cage, play up our tripwires, and then if they go ladder side, we have our one way to try to punish them. This very rarely happens, but if the enemy team is hard disrespecting you B and keep pushing it, I might decide to start playing close instead. And there's no two set tripwires I would use. These are just a couple examples of ones that I might have to mix it up with to avoid the util that I've been using to break my other ones. These cages and the cam though are definitely the ones I would be using. Cam with earlier info so we can just call the rotates, and these cages just allow you to play close and play off your tripwires. And now for A side setups, starting with the camera, we're gonna jump, place it here, throw our cage in the bottom here. Shout out to Acre by the way for that cage, it's really good. Trip across double door, and then a trip here as soon as the round starts. Keep in mind they cannot hear that tripwire if you place it instantly. Starting the round on our camera, if we see people going off double door, we can pop this cage and jump up, and it acts as a pseudo one way to get super free kills. They're coming out A main, you can play for tripwire there, and yeah, really simple to play. If you want a second alternative to go trip per site, I also like using this one when playing this setup. For our second setup per se, we can place your cam up here for early info. Coming here, placing a trip off the bricks, and our second one shortened and ending right here, paired for a cage. And then for our second cage, we're coming up to the edge here, throwing it here in the choke. And then when the round starts, showing on our camera, when they come out, we have this cage that can stall the choke. It can allow us to do an aggressive peek and then get out. We can pop it to break the drone and not get traded, etc. And then we have our second cage here, pop to play off of our trips and protect ourselves.
Cage triggered.
Tell me, what color is the light? It's red.
Cage triggered.
Standing within this brilliant aura is someone greater than Lotus C.
Cage triggered.
Is it a family member?
Cage triggered. Cage triggered. Cage triggered.
Okay, so the first setup for A is honestly super simple. We're starting with a B trip, just to deny the lurker and allow our B player to fast rotate. Next, we're going to place a camera up here like so. I'll explain what it's for in a second. Jump down here, and then as soon as the barrier drops, we're going to be placing a tripwire here, paired with a cage. Now playing this setup super simple. As soon as they run up long, we're popping our cage, getting a kill off the tripwire, and then just running away. We can tap our cam for info as they're going in the site, and we just want to double up our teammate wherever he is and fight and take trades off of him. The second setup is going to be a retake setup. We're going to jump up top site, place our cam right here. Just the best overall retake cam in my opinion. And then for tripwires, it's not exactly important which ones you choose. There's tons of different ones you can use that are viable. These are just the two I normally start with, paired with a cage in the middle. Basically, if they break the first one, they'll always run into the second one not expecting. And playing it super simple, we just chill in heaven, spam off our tripwires, and save our camera for when our teammates are ready to retake. For the first C setup, placing the same tripwire on B, same idea as before. We're coming over towards C, placing a pretty basic tripwire of the choke paired with a cage, and then as soon as the round starts, we're placing a deep camera like so. If our camera sees nothing, we're going to pick up our tripwire and place it in garage instead, and now we basically have info across the entire map except for A, allowing our teams to heavy rotate. And if they are C, just leave your tripwire in the choke, pop your cage when they're ready to get up, and you should get at least one free kill. And you'll have fast rotators to help you when they're out on site. For our second C setup, we're going to place a trip in garage here. For the second tripwire, we're going to use the same one as before, but you can mix it up with tons of different ones from the guide. And then for our camera, we're going to jump up here, place it like so. And then for our one way, we're just throwing it in the horn. You don't really need a lineup for this. And for our second cage, we're just pushing a basic one backside. Starting the round pre-aimed at the dart so you don't get scanned. When we're sitting in our camera, when we see them walking up long, we can pop our one way and get a free kill. And then we have our cage that are right around if we need to cross or just play off our tripwire, etc. For a garage setup, again, the exact same B tripwire, it's just super strong on this map. And then for our camera, you're going to come up on the ledge here and then walk out into your middle of these tiles. Aim at the black part of this metal here under the piece of wood, jump and throw. And then we're going to place a kill trip on C. It doesn't exactly matter which one you do. I'm just doing the same one as before because it's super strong. And then before the round starts, come into this corner, aim the keybind for your cage at this black line on the door, and throw as soon as the round starts. Chilling in our camera outside of garage link. As soon as they walk into garage, we pop our one way, get a free kill. And then if there's more, we're just giving up garage and helping our C player. And if they're running out C, we have the kill trip that we can play off of ourselves. And finally for Haven, for our B setup, putting an info trip in garage so our teammate on garage can fast rotate and help us. We're putting a kill trip for B like so, off the corner of these boxes. Our camera goes above the choke, which is a super strong camera. And then for cages, we're placing one slightly out from the spawn barrier like so, just so we can activate it while sitting inside of our camera. Playing this is super simple. We're just chilling in A link, chilling on our camera. When we see them about to walk out or hear footsteps, popping our cage, playing off a trip. Nothing else to it really.
Cage triggered. 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 Cage triggered.
Okay, so for setups on Lotus, we're placing this front B trip basically every single round because denying the B lurk is just so important on this map. Now onto the actual C setup, we're going to place a trip behind this box here, prepare for a cage, and then our second cage on the corner of the ramp here, and then as soon as the round starts, we're placing a deep info cam. Based off the cam's info, if they're not here, we're either going to fast flank or fast rotate. If they do come C, our cages are super flexible and allow us to play off our tripwire here, but they also have the added benefit of being able to make some pretty nice wrap plays through them. Our second setup is just a super simple Odin setup, placing a kill trip that we can wallbang from CT there, and a camera up here. You can also place a cage here to deny the backside push, but it's really more optional. And now, playing the setup super simple, we just sit in our camera. When they run in, we have both our camera tag and our tripwire to wallbang through this pillar here and get some free kills. And now over towards A, another super simple setup to be honest. We're just placing a trip here, 2 cages like so, and then jumping up and placing our camera here. And now playing this setup, we're starting in stairs, playing as the fast rotator. If they come A, we have our trip to play off of, and then whenever they're running out, we are giving our teammates a ton of info on site with our camera, and we're looking for an opportunity to pop our cages and make a lurk play. If this tripwire starts to get broken, we can also swap to this one. It's a solid kill trip. Similarly to C, our second setup's also going to be an Odin setup. Placing the same tripwire, but where's the stiffers, as soon as the round starts, placing a deep camera and running all the way over to tree room, and throwing a one-way like so. And now, sitting in tree room for Odin, if we hear them running up the left, we can spam this line here to deny them opening the switch. If we hear them grabbing for orb, the lineup for the range they can be in the orb is in between these two pings like so. And to top it all off, we have our camera that we can throw tags with, and if they go to pull out the dart, it's just a free kill, they instantly die. If they try to push us off tree room, we also have this one way here to stop them from running through the door. And finally, B setup. I don't play a B often, but whenever I do, I normally play these 2 kill trips like so, paired with a cage and the choke, and then we come over to A link to throw our camera. Our camera covers the left side walk-in and A link, and our trip covers the right side walk-in, so they can't come in for free.
Here. Cage triggered. 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 Cage triggered.
Okay, so for split setups starting on A, we're gonna place this camera here. Honestly, the God camera just gives us tons of info. We're gonna place a tripwire here for ramp info, and a trip on site like so, paired with a cage. Starting the round close, because we want to be able to break the sky dog or the Cypher camera if there's up close, and we can always use our cage to back up and hold for ourselves. Paired with another cage if they're running all the way on site. But starting close is also important, because if they're hard rushing ramp instead of site, we need to be able to have impact in the round, which means pushing past our setup and backstabbing them when they're fighting our ramp player.
Yeah.
I will also add that I sometimes do swap this ramp tripwire between these two tripwires, depending on if I have a Vents player or not. If I have a Vents player, I would rather put the one more forward, because it denies them flanking him, but if I don't have a Vents player, I want the one further back, so that pillars can't flank from Vents into me. For our second A setup, we're also putting a trip in A heaven, and also the same camera as before. If this camera does get broken a ton though, keep in mind there are tons of options you can swap it out with. For a tripwire, we're putting it here, paired with the one-way like so. And now, starting from close again so that we can break Util, we're just showing on our camera, if we see A players, we can run back, and as soon as they hit our tripwire, or break it, we can wallbang our trip for a kill, and we can also pop this one-way to get some more free kills. And that's it really. You still have your second cage in your back pocket, so you can huck it out here to stall back sight and just play your life. And now for B sight, starting in heaven, we're going to place one of these 3 different tripwires. They're all pretty similar, it's just to give info in heaven. For our camera, we're going to come over here, place it like so. So honestly, this is just a God camera for this site. And then for a one-way, we're going to come over to the side of this wall, and just bank it off. And for our second trip, we're going to put it in the choke. Now playing this setup super simple, we're just going to chill on our camera, when they're coming out B main, we pop our one way, and get a free kill or two. And for a variation I use very frequently, we're just going to swap our B main trip to this one, and pair our second cage with it here. The second B setup super similar, we're running the same tripwire in heaven, same tripwire in the choke, but this time put a normal cage with it, and as soon as the round starts we put a deep cam. If our cam doesn't spot anything, we can go for the fast flank or fast rotate. But if our camera does spot something, we're going to play in this angle here, go for our free kill, and we have a cage to pop and get ourselves out for free.
Cage triggered. Triggered. Setup shop. Cage triggered.
Sunset B setups, we're starting top mid and putting a trip just to deny the info. Then for our camera, we're gonna come up here and do a little bit of parkour. Really all you need to do is air strafe and press crouch when you're moving around, and place your camera like so. For trips, we're just placing the basic one and the choke here, paired with a one way. For this one way, all you do is come up on this box, look at the corner here, aim it a little bit to the left and throw. And then chilling backside in our camera, as soon as it sees something, we can pop our one way and get free kill. For our second setup, putting the same tripwire as before, then this time instead of a one way, put a normal cage. Then we're gonna come over towards market, put an info trip here, and this time we're pairing it for one way. No lineup required, you can just bang it off here onto this box. And then for cameras, we're just coming over here and placing it as high on the wall as we can. And now playing this setup and this map in general, the trip in B main is so important that it's become a thing that most teams will almost always use util for. So, it becomes a mind game, we're playing from market, we need to recall it and place it back to deny it being broken. We can use our cage and the choke to deny this, and also we can call for chokes for our teammate. If they come up market on us, we have our camera, our tripwire. If they tripwire, we can wallbang it for free. If they're running up, we can pop the one way off our camera and kill them through it. Just be careful not to peek bottom mid because this one way is only a one way for when they're close to the actual cage. For our first A setup, we're placing the same top mid trip paired with this cam here, which I would consider the god cam for this map. This cam's actually insane, just has so much info. And then for trips, there's loads of different ones you can do. I normally start with a basic one like so, then we come over to the corner of the spawn barrier here, aim our left HUD line in between the radionite boxes and the graffiti on the wall, and then as soon as the round starts, we throw it. Using our camera, we can time it to pop this one way, get free kills off of, and then as soon as we're done with that, we run back to play dice off of our trip. And normally, if they are here, I'll place a cage here while running back.
Cage trigger.
Our second setup towards A is going to be a retake setup. I really like this camera when playing retake just because it's really good info on sight. And then for tripwires, there's tons of different ones you can do. I'm just going to throw the ones I like the most normally. And then for cages, we're going to place one on the middle step here and one on this black dot here. Basically, these cages are multi-purpose. The one in front of us allows us to play for tripwires, the other denies the push backhaul, but they also can be paired together to rat through and try to push the backhaul players.